Okay, so here we are with the second sample essay. This essay is just beautiful. I say that I'm kind of biased in the sense that this is a very heady essay. It's for a very academic audience. This may not be your um, purview at all, which is totally fine. This person was very clear about his audience when he began the process. So he's writing essentially to historians, and that's very evident in the language that he uses and how he goes about discussing what he's reporting about, which is quantitative and qualitative historical research kind of melded, and what the general thought about that is, and so on and so forth. This is beautifully done. You'll see how he has his sources integrated here very nicely, and so forth. Had he wanted to address a more general audience, he could have included, as I was saying in my last video, he could have included definitions of terms. He could have included subject headings in terms of organization. It wasn't explicitly necessary here because of the audience to whom he was writing. Even so, though, one might argue that the use of subject headings could have made this a little bit more digestible. So if I were to critique this in any significant way, that would be how I would go about critiquing it. Again, please look very, very carefully and consider very carefully the report writing assignment sheet. That document is extremely detailed and goes through a lot of processes, a lot of questions to put you in a strong frame of mind for composing a report. Okay, so I do recommend that you take a look at that, because it's going to give you a template, if you will. I hesitate to say template because you're not just filling in the blanks, but it'll give you a trajectory for how to go about writing a solid report. Again, when you're thinking about your report, think in terms of who your audience is. How are you going to connect them with this information? How are you going to make this information accessible to them? And so on and so forth, right? And again, with the report, the emphasis is not on argument. The emphasis is on synthesis of information, right? You're trying to give an overview, right? A synthesized overview of the information about your particular topic in language that your audience can understand, right? And of course, you are using your sources. You're integrating your sources. I don't know that I have said this yet, but I'll say it here, and I'll probably put it in an announcement, and definitely when we get to peer editing on the report next week, I'll bring this up again. But generally speaking, I'm not going to expect you to incorporate all 10 of your sources for various reasons, right? You might have sources of varying quality. You might have sources that you determine aren't necessarily going to fit in the frame that you're discussing. You may have sources that retread information. So typically speaking, on an essay of the size that you're ultimately going to be writing, which is somewhere on and around 5 pages probably, right, for the final draft, okay, you're going to want somewhere around 4 to 6 sources is a reasonable number. Otherwise, all you're doing is summarizing a couple of information from a couple of sources, and that's not really reporting. Okay, not to a great degree, right? So anyway, you just want to keep this in mind. If you want to just take in something really nicely written, though, I recommend giving this essay a read through. Okay, all right, thanks.